Hope you guys are having a great night or maybe great morning, depending on where you guys are watching from. Something that we thought was probably inevitable at this point, especially after the results we had seen more recently, has officially happened. Wilfried Nancy has been sacked as the Celtic manager after the shortest tenure of his career, I would say. I don't know what his coaching jobs date back to his youth days or prior to his MLS coaching, but he was the manager for 30 days, 32 days, or something like that. And he has been fired by Celtic after a very rough start. And we'll talk about it and see what his future is going forward and talk about the outrage that I've had from some Celtic fans and Scottish fans today, which has been hilarious. So maybe we'll even read some comments of what they've said. But, we've been going back and forth joking about the Scottish Premiership and MLS of which league is better, which is a joke. It's not even close. But let me read this real quick. This is a BBC report. Celtic sack manager Nancy after 8 games. Celtic have parted company with manager Wilfried Nancy with Saturday's 3-1 defeat by Rangers. His 6th loss, in just 8 matches in his 33-day reign is the shortest in club history. The 48-year-old signed a 2.5-year contract with the Scottish champions after the conclusion of the MLS season with the Columbus Crew and took charge on December the 4th. But having won 7 of their 8 games under interim manager Martin O'Neill, Celtic's form slumped dramatically under Nancy. The Frenchman became the first Celtic manager to lose his first 2 games before suffering a 3-1 defeat by St. Mirren in the Premier Sports Cup final and a 2-1 reverse at Dundee United. It was the first time a Celtic had lost 4 games in a row since a similar run under legendary Jock Stein in 1978. By the way, Wilfried Nancy will not have a chance to become a legend at Celtic. They won back-to-back league matches against Aberdeen and Livingston to stop the rot, but were beaten 2-0 at Motherwell on Tuesday and collapsed into a dismal second half at home to Rangers. Celtic have also removed Paul Tisdale from a position as the head of football operations. The former Exeter City and Stevenage manager had been in the role since October of 2024. And Martin O'Neill, the guy who was coaching the team prior to Wilfried Nancy taking over, is now the manager again. So there's a lot to break down here. Like I said, there's been a lot of Celtic fans have just hated Wilfried Nancy and really, really made it very apparent and loud that they do not like him. They've wanted him out for a while now. Never really gave him a chance to get his feet wet and try to, try to get things settled down. He never even got a transfer window, which is kind of crazy. And I know that Celtic played a different formation. We'll talk more about this. And he tried to implement his 3-4-2-1. And it just didn't pan out. But we're going to talk about Wilfried Nancy as a manager. If you guys think he's good, was this right? Was this wrong? And is it really his fault? I mean, is it really his fault? I mean, I think gave him a chance, 6 defeats. Okay, we'll talk about that. But before we get into that, we got 78 people in the chat. If you haven't already, make sure you guys give us a like down below. Let's try to get to 100 likes on the stream. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're 370 subscribers away from 12,000. We're getting closer and closer. So make sure you guys hit the smash the subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit the little bell notification so you never miss a video. But I want to ask you guys, do you guys think Wilfried Nancy deserved to lose his job? Did Wilfried Nancy deserve to lose his job with Celtic? Did they give him enough time, or did they give him? Did they pull the plug too early? Do you think they pulled the plug way too early? I want to know what you guys think about the firing of Wilfried Nancy. But I'm pulling up. I'm looking at Celtic's season so far. Okay, so Brendan Rodgers, he started off the season as the manager for Celtic. And then he left. I think he went to the Saudi League. He resigned after this game right here, the 26th. After they lost 3-1. Is that Heart? It's Heart of Midlothian, I think. Midlothian. They lost him 3-1, and Brendan Rodgers resigned. And this is Brendan Rodgers' second stint, or was his second stint with Celtic after He left. I can't remember who he went to. I think he coached Leicester City after he was at Liverpool. Then he went to Celtic because he got fired. He coached pretty well at Celtic. Got a chance to coach at Leicester City, and then this was his second stint. Anyway, he left. He went to the Saudi League. Well, then they hired Martin O'Neill. And now this isn't all competitions. This is just the Scottish Premiership. This isn't everything, right? But Martin O'Neill did good. He's the Irish international manager. I think he won 7 of his 8 games at helm. Like he was pretty good. Did a really good job. And then they hired Wilfried Nancy. So I'm a little confused why they didn't just ride it out with Martin O'Neill if he was doing so well. Why they didn't just ride it out with him? But he's in charge again, so he's going to probably be the manager for the rest of the season. He's going to be the manager for the rest of the season. How many trophies do your trash wee club have, wee fella? Oh, Jesus. Anyway, so Martin O'Neill's back in charge. Now, I'm going to give my opinion on this, and feel free to interject. Tell me what you guys think. Wilfried Nancy, and we're going to talk about his record in Major League Soccer, and people were talking negatively about Major League Soccer. Major League Soccer is a top 10, top 12 league in the world. The Scottish Premiership is ranked like 30th in the world. So we're not even talking about the same quality of league. The bottom and the middle of this league is a joke. The only two teams is Rangers and obviously Celtic. The rest of the league is a joke. They got 12 teams in the entire league. We got 30. So just absolute joke. Anyway, so Wilfried Nancy, he was a very promising up and coming coach, and we're going to talk about his stints with Montreal. We're going to talk about his stints with Columbus Crew before he took the Celtic job. But he was an ascending manager, and some people even thought he could have been the USMNT manager last summer before they hired Mauricio Pochettino. He was in consideration. He was a guy that people wanted, and he was a guy that people thought could have done an effective job at that role. And it's kind of funny because Pochettino actually plays the same formation that the 3-4-2-1 that Wilfried Nancy plays with. So that's actually kind of interesting. Anyway, side note. But he had an ascending, he looked like he was ascending. He was going to be he was going to get a big opportunity at some point. I didn't know where, but he's going to get a big opportunity at some point. Well, he took a job with Celtic, and he is at a job that mostly everyone wins at, right? The last manager, and by the way, I'm going to point that out too. I don't think enough people talk about this. There was a former Celtic manager who coached in Major League Soccer this year and was absolutely abysmal. And I don't think anyone talks about that. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I don't think enough people are talking about this manager who's coached in both leagues and was terrible in MLS, but we'll get to that later too. Anyway, so he gets a job where most managers normally win at, right? And he struggled. But I think that he should have never taken this job because, S. Nick or Snick, you're on the money. This just wasn't a big enough league or leap to put yourself in that situation. Like Celtic is a historic club. Obviously, they play in the Champions League, all that, that alone probably, does put them in a higher tier than Major League Soccer just because of the competition and the history of the club. No one's denying that. But when you think about Wilfried Nancy, this guy had aspirations of playing or coaching, in the Premier League. I mean, that's where he really wanted to be, is the Premier League. And I just don't think Celtic was anyone going to hire him? Let's say Celtic won the Scottish Premiership this year. Let's say they won it the next year. Let's say he was the manager for 2.5 seasons, his contract, which he signed. He was, the next 3 seasons. And he won the Premiership every year. Was anyone going to give him, were they going to hire him, the Premier League? Was he going to get a Premier League opportunity? I don't think they were. I don't think they were going to give him a chance to coach the Premier League. So this just felt like a move that wasn't worth leaving a spot he was good and comfortable at. Like it just wasn't the right jump. Now, Patrick Vieira left New York City FC in 2018 to be the manager of, what was the French club he left for? Oh man, what was the French club? Was it I have to look it up and see which club Patrick Vieira left. Patrick Vieira left New York City FC though in 2018 to be the manager of Nice. That's what it was. Nice. Okay, yeah. So Patrick Vieira left New York City FC to be the manager of Nice. Now that made sense because he's obviously going up in a better league. It makes sense to push yourself. He wants to try to be a better man or try to reach a higher league at some point. But Celtic, just Nazi, there wasn't a lot to gain there. The juice wasn't worth the squeeze. And now, after 8 games, he got fired from Celtic. He's the shortest tenured manager in the club history. And he has completely tarnished his chances of coaching in Europe probably ever again. He's tarnished his chances of ever coaching in the in Europe again. I think I honestly don't think he'll ever coach in Europe again. I don't think he will. Did Big Ange not go to the Spurs? He did, but the problem is that he was horrible with the Spurs. So now they're going to say, well, we don't want to hire another Celtic manager to coach a Premier League team. They're not any good. It's not a proven formula to prove that you're good. Brendan Rodgers was winning at Liverpool, then went to Celtic, then went to Leicester City. So he had a track record of winning in the Premier League before, where Big Ange didn't. Big Ange was at the Australian League, I think. Yeah, and this is another important thing too. Celtic don't play a 3-4-3. They don't. They don't play a 3-4-3. And Nazi was trying to implement his system. He won a trophy with the Spurs. Yeah, he did. But what was he doing in the regular season? They were like, what, 17th? Talk to any Spurs fan. He's not liked. They don't like him. The Spurs fans I talk to don't like him. Anyway, where was I? I lost my train of thought. Anyway, but Nazi is a proven winner in Major League Soccer. He's a proven winner in Major League Soccer. He had a bright future, and it has been completely tarnished with this short stint. And we're going to talk about his stats because people were saying that MLS is easy to win. And the job that he won with in Montreal, the job he did was so impressive. Thierry Henry was the manager before Wilfried Nancy at Montreal, and he resigned. He was way worse than Thierry Henry. Way worse than Thierry Henry. Oh, that's what it was. Sorry, Mr. The 3-4-3. That's what we were talking about, the 3-4-3. They didn't even give Wilfried Nancy a chance to get players in here that fit his system. The window had just opened 4 days ago, and he wasn't even able to get a chance to bring his guys in to see if that would change anything. Now, I understand that the standards are high at Celtic and they want to win. I understand that. I have no issue with that. I think standards are good because if they're, you want to win. It's not bad to want your team to win. And if they don't win, they'd say, hey, we want change. But he didn't even have a chance to bring some of his guys in. He didn't even have a chance to bring in some guys that did fit his system. And maybe things could have been a lot different. And like I said, I understand that there is a demand to win, and Celtic won't stand for anything else. The fans won't stand for anything else. But I really think that if he was able to bring in like 3 to 4 players that fit his system in this winter window, and there was rumors that he was going to some guys that fit his system. Diego Rossi was a guy that would fit his system. Max Arfston was a guy that I think was rumored who came from Columbus, would have fit his system. There was guys that they were talking to that I think would have helped out and they could have fit his system, and things might have been a little bit different. Yes, he lost 6 out of 8 games. Some of the Celtic fans, look up Greg Vanney, look at the LA Galaxy manager, the biggest club in MLS history. Go look up their 2025 start. Look how many games they went without winning. Go look how many games they went without winning in 2025. I think you'll be surprised by that. Your league can learn from the fact of needing to win or you're out. That's how big clubs work. And I don't disagree that you should have a standard of trying to win. I do agree with that. I think there's a balance. There's a balance. You can't be too quick to fire someone, but you can't also give them too long to coach. LA Galaxy's manager Went 16 games last year. His first 16 games without a win. They were winless in their first 16 games, and he got an extension. That's absurd. I agree with you. That's absurd. But I do think they should have at least given Wilfried Nancy the transfer window to see if he could bring in some of his players and change things. I don't think the players fit his system. Mr. says, yeah, but it's Celtic. You either win or you're gone. And that's true. That's true. It just doesn't feel like it was worth it to ruin his career. Chances of going to, coaching at a big European club. And when I say big European club, I'm talking about a team that's not playing in the 32nd best league in the world. I'm talking about the Premier League or the French League or Serie A or La Liga. I'm talking about a big league. I'm not talking about a big club in a small league. That's over with. That's over with. So I want to look at Wilfried Nancy's previous stints, okay? I want to show you guys some of this stuff because obviously you're here. You care about Wilfried Nancy. Some of you guys are trying to vent about him. Some of you guys are Celtic fans. I can tell just by what you're saying. I want to talk about what Wilfried Nancy did before because there is a good manager can still have a bad stint. Just because you have a bad stint doesn't mean you're a bad manager. How many times has Carlo Ancelotti been fired? How many times has he been sacked? I think he's the best manager of all time. How many times has he been fired? Several times. Several times, but I think he's the best manager of all time. That's just my opinion. Now, before we get into this, we're gonna reflect on what Wilfried Nancy's done and why I think he's a good manager. Before we do that, make sure you guys like this down below the stream if you haven't already. Content's free, biggest MLS channel there is. Thanks to you guys. I appreciate all the support you guys show me. I think we're at 20 likes. Let's try to get to 100. Try to get to 100. Sorry about that. Pull this up. Let's try to get to 100 likes. I think we're at 20 right now. We're getting closer and closer. So make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Okay. So Wilfried Nancy got his opportunity in Major League Soccer by coaching the Montreal, they're CF Montreal, but it's Montreal Impact because, like I said earlier, Thierry Henry left. Okay. Thierry Henry left. He resigned as the manager. Montreal is one of the lowest spending teams in the entire Major League Soccer. Like, they don't spend anything. They are notoriously cheap. Notoriously cheap. Okay. And I'm going to pull up what he took over in 2021. 2021 Montreal Impact. Probably more Impact than still, but I'll say Impact anyway. They'll know what I mean. Okay. So he took over in 2021. Wilfried Nancy did. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. And this team is cheap. They don't spend any money. They don't spend any money in Major League Soccer. They finished 10th in the Eastern Conference. There were 12 teams in the Eastern Conference, which is hard to believe there's 15 now. There were 12 teams in the Eastern Conference. He finished 10th in the Eastern Conference in 2021. Okay. And then he finished 18th overall in the entire league. In the entire league, he finished 18th overall. Okay. So this team is cheap. First year, not too good. See what he won. Semi games he won. Will show us the table. Or it did already. Okay. So he won 12 games, 12 losses, 10 ties, 10 draws, 46 goals, 44 goals conceded, plus 2 goal difference. Okay. The following year, 2022, with Montreal, one of the cheapest teams in the entire league, by far. He finished 3rd overall in the league and 2nd in the Eastern Conference. At Montreal, one of the cheapest teams in the entire league. And we will look it up in a second. We will look up what they spend. He had 20 wins, 9 losses, 5 draws, plus 13 goal difference, 65 points. With one of the cheapest rosters in the entire. Yeah, Montreal is trash. He did this. And he did it with a terrible team. He finished 3rd overall in the entire league. In the entire league with a very, very cheap roster, very, very cheap team. I mean, that was a miracle. And people said, including myself, if And by the way, Alistair Johnson is one of your players, and he played with Wilfried Nancy, which is interesting. Anyway, he did this, and people like myself said, well, if he ever went to a team that spent money, he would win the league. He would win the league. That's what I said. If he went to a team that spent money, he would win the league. In the next year, he left Montreal and went to the Columbus Crew. By the way, side note, one of the worst logos I've ever seen. I have to preface that because it's just true. Doesn't even look like a soccer badge, honestly. They finished third in the MLS again, in the conference and in the league. Okay? But MLS doesn't decide the winner of. He had 16 wins, 9 losses, 9 draws, but they got their best player, in my opinion, or arguably their second best player, Diego Rossi, the guy that Celtic was linked with in the second half of the season, and that's when things really turned around too. But he won the league in the first year. They won the MLS Cup. They beat LAFC, the reigning champions. They beat LAFC. He won the league at a club of spent in his first year. Won the whole league. And then in 2024, they kind of had a slump. They didn't do as well. They struggled a little bit in 2024. They should have been a little better, but they finished second in the entire league in points. They had 19 wins, 6 losses, 9 draws, plus 32 goal difference. That's really good. 72 goals scored, 40 goals conceded in Major League Soccer. Not too shabby. And he won 4 or 5 trophies in 2024, only giving up Campeones Cup. Yeah, I'm pretty sure of all the championships they played in, well, they didn't win MLS Cup. I think all the champions they played in, all the championship games they played in, they won, except they lost to Pachuca in the MLS or the CONCACAF Champions Cup final. It's our Champions League. They lost 3-0. But he made it there, and that was impressive, especially, for an MLS team who never historically does well in these tournaments. And then he beat down Monterrey 5-2 on aggregate, which was very impressive at the time. So he did very well. Now, people say, well, 2025, Wilfried Nancy fell off. Oh, my God, he was terrible. They were 12th in the league, 7th in the conference. Well, yeah, they were, because they sold their best player the day the season started, a guy named Cucho Hernandez, who was the runner-up in the MVP race in 2024. They sold their best player on the team the day this league started. They sold him to Real Betis for I think 10 million euros or something like that. But he had 19 goals and like 16 assists last year for the Crew. They didn't have a number 9 all season in 2025 or 2025. They had no number 9. And you see this with they had 14 wins, 8 losses, 12 draws, 55 goals, 51 conceded, plus 4 goal difference. They didn't have a striker. They didn't sign a striker until the summer transfer window. They signed the guy from Al Ali. What was his name? His name was, I'm trying to find him. Let me see. Yeah, Wessam Abu Ali. They signed this guy, the Palestinian international. They signed him. He only played 5 games. So by the time they had a real striker, he got hurt at one point, and he never got a chance to really settle in because MLS's schedule, if you know any better, is just terrible. And the primary transfer window for the world, the summer, is it's like 2/3 the MLS season. So they never had a chance to really get off the ground. They really didn't. So that really hurt them in 2025. And I'm pulling up the Crews, which this one isn't probably as accurate because you pull up the 2024 transfer market. Because like I said, I always like to look at transfer market as a reference point for what a team is worth. Like, it's not the end all be all. I said every single time, but it's a good reference point for what teams are worth. I think it can give you kind of like a general sense, right? It can give you a general sense of what a team's worth, but I can guarantee you that Celtic is probably worth more than any team that he coached. I think this is accurate. So I think the 2024 Columbus Crew were worth 50, and my computer's acting really, I think transfer market screwed up right now, but roughly around 51.83 million euros is what they are worth. Okay. I bet you Celtic, yeah, 137 million euros. Dude, that's ridiculous. It's just so funny. He's done more with less in a better league. He's done more in a better, okay. And I know you're gonna say, well, why couldn't he win at Celtic? Like I said, I don't think he had a chance to get all the best players, but some of these people are saying that like MLS is worse than the Scottish Premiership. We're gonna look at these. We're gonna look at these club valuations, what they're worth. Yeah, and they did have food poisoning. Yeah, that was another reason I think they struggled to win their the CONCACAF Champions Cup in 2025. But let's look at the club values from both leagues. Because like I said, and yeah, transfer market is just absolutely shitting the bed for some reason right now. I have no idea what the hell's wrong with transfer market right now. I'm trying to pull this up, the Scottish Premiership club valuations, but it's still acting a little buggy. Either way, you can look it up yourself. I'm telling you, they have the Scottish Premiership average club value is terrible. It's like the cheapest club's like $3 million, I think. $4 million. Their player roster valuation is like $3 or $4 million. MLS has like, I think the lowest would probably be at 40 million. It's not all about money, dude. Nancy lost. Yeah, I see it's something weird's happening. I'm not sure what's going on. We'll just share this for now. It's all about money, dude. Nancy lost 6 out of 8 games with the richest club in Scotland, but he didn't have the guys that fit his system. He never even got a chance to get the guys that fit his system, in my opinion. Celtic would win MLS because we'd attract better players because we're bigger around the world. I don't think you would, man. Honestly, I don't think you would. I think you're underestimating MLS. I think you're underestimating MLS. He was out of his depth as Celtic manager, and that the worst ever manager in Celtics history. That's a fact. I mean, yeah, but let's talk about this too. What about Ronnie Dila? That guy won how many championships did this guy win you? Let's look at this guy, Ronnie Dila. He was your manager. Okay? He was your manager for what, 2 seasons? How many times he won the Scottish Premiership? Let's look at this. He won the Scottish Premiership both times he coached. Both times he coached, he won the Scottish Premiership. Okay? Ronnie Dila did. And he also won the Scottish League Cup. He went to Atlanta this year. Atlanta United. Most of you guys probably don't know what club that is. It's an MLS club in Atlanta. Okay? They spent $40 million this offseason on 2 players. They bought Emmanuel Latte-Lot and they bought Miguel Almiron. 2 guys. One guy in the championship, one guy in the Premier League. Both better leagues than the Scottish Premiership. Okay? Let's look at what he did. Your former manager who won the Scottish Premiership 2 times. Let's see what he did in MLS. He finished 29th out of 30 in the entire league. Your former manager who won your league 2 times. Out of his depth in Major League Soccer. Your former manager went 29th out of 30 in MLS. And they spent a lot of money. This is your guy? Your guy did this. Yeah, it doesn't matter. He still won the Premiership twice. He won the Scottish Premiership twice, and he finished 29th out of 30th in MLS. He couldn't even finish above, he couldn't even make the playoffs. 18 out of 30 teams make it. I know you didn't like him, but he won the Premiership twice. My point is you're saying that Major League Soccer is bad. The Premiership is way better. Celtic is way better. The standards are so high. Then how come the guy who is winning your league twice, back-to-back years, failing so miserably in MLS? If MLS is so hard, why are they failing so miserably? Why? Damn, it's almost like fit is really important in a team, and he just wasn't a good fit there. And that's probably what it is. I mean, it probably is all it comes down to. That's probably what it is. That's probably what it is. Now, I made this post too. That's just my opinion on Wilfried Nancy. I think he's a good manager. I've said that 100 times. I think he's good. I do think it's just a bad situation, a bad fit with Rangers. Now, I said this earlier. Now that he's free, right? And I don't think there's any vacancies in MLS right now. I think they just filled the last one with Sporting Kansas City with Raphael. I think it's Raphael Wiki or Vicky. I said I would literally fire 2/3 of MLS managers to hire Wilfried Nancy right now. I would literally fire 2/3 of MLS managers to hire Wilfried Nancy. So many teams could benefit from having him on their team. And I think that if someone gets fired, he's going to be the first one called up. He's going to be the first one they call up if someone gets fired. And I wish some teams would have waited just a little bit longer to see what would have happened. I don't think he was ever going to return to the crew. I think that experiment had been done, and they hired the Swedish manager a couple days ago. I don't think that was ever going to happen, but I think some MLS teams would really benefit from having him because he's a proven manager in this league. He's a proven manager in this league. It's just a fact. He is. So it's a shame. We'll see. Maybe he needs a break a little bit. Maybe he needs something to reset and try to like get things back. Kind of refocus on things after this bad stint. I'm going to miss Nancy. He was the biggest clown Scottish football saw in years. Okay. Celtic is garbage. They used to be such a great team. Now that there's a lot of people think that. Yanks know nothing about football. Is that a Winnie the Pooh profile picture? And you're talking about my tactics, my knowledge of ball? Anyway. So we'll see what happens. We'll see where he goes. I think he's gonna have options. I think he's a good manager. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in 2020 and 2026. There's gonna be some vacancies in Major League Soccer. I think he deserves a job. He deserves a job. And a lot of Celtic fans troll. I appreciate you guys for being here, regardless if you agree or disagree. We'll see what happens with Celtic. I said this earlier in the stream, and I don't know if some of the Celtic fans had heard this, but if Martin O'Neill was as good as they say he was, he went 7 of 8 in his 8 games as the interim manager. I don't know why they didn't just let him coach the rest of the year. I mean, like, he is going to get the chance now to do this, but I don't understand why he didn't get a chance to. I don't know why they just keep him on for the rest of the year. I don't know why they didn't keep him on for the rest of the season. Celtics are a basketball team in Boston. Yeah, you got a point, David. You got a point. You got a point. So, anyway, we'll see what happens in 2026. We'll see if Celtic are able to recover. I would expect them to have a bump anytime a coach gets fired, regardless of where they are, what league, what sport in the world. There's normally a bump because the players are frustrated. They play harder for the new guy, even if it's temporary. So I would not be surprised if they have some type of resurgence after this. We'll see. But Wilfried Nancy, he's a free agent again. We'll see where he goes. I don't really think there's anything else to cover as far as this. Nancy and remind me once Mascherano gets the boot for his terrible tactics. The Scottish trolls are hilarious. I like Celtic, but they haven't done anything since the Henrik Larsson days. Celtic is going to drop more points and end up in the middle. Might be some Ranger fans in here now, which would be kind of funny. So, yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up, guys. We'll see. Wilfried Nancy. We'll see if he lands back on his feet. This is a shorter stream. Appreciate you guys for tuning in to talk about this. Hopefully you guys were entertained. If you did, make sure you guys give us a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. Mr. My friend, we'll see what happens. O'Neill does understand Scottish football. I think he'll be pretty good. MLS is better than Scottish Premiership, and I think we're in it there. Hope you guys have a great night. Till next time, I'll see you all soon.